protesters outside the White House with a banner confronting Donald Trump for his word. They're saying not a hoax because the evidence has rebutted, confronted, and really debunked some of Donald Trump's claims about these Epstein files, which he is in, including allegedly the card that now has been released by the Epstein estate. This card is all the way back from 2003. It is exactly what the Wall Street Journal said it was, which undercuts Trump's denials. And it went from the Epstein estate to the House Oversight Committee. And you can see the drawing and the poem or inscription, which we've read before, which suggests that the man who signed this card, Donald J. Trump, knew all about what Epstein was up to. The White House continues to deny that this card is from Trump, a denial that obviously is contradicted by the evidence from the Epstein estate. They have been holding on to this thing along with other documents. They handed it over under subpoena. No one has come through with any kind of rational explanation to explain what this is, if not what Donald Trump gave to the Epstein then household, now estate. And this morning, Trump just announced he doesn't see this as a live issue anymore. None of this type of denial is working.
If he didn't sign these, if you said he didn't sign the birthday card, he didn't do this, he also didn't do the check, those were in documents from the estate. So what is the working theory as to why he's in them?
The Epstein case, would the White House support a professional handwriting expert review of the document released yesterday?
One of the other documents released by the House Oversight Committee contained a photo of Jeffrey Epstein holding an oversized check.
Does the president, will he meet with the victims?
On and on it went like that. As we saw there, we're showing you the journalists with all these questions, not necessarily the answers, some of which were not newsworthy or don't pass sort of our standards review for the facts. Because Donald Trump has no good answer to this. He just sued the Wall Street Journal and he denies it. But of course, we have the hard evidence from the Epstein estate. And Republicans don't know what to say.
Look up this birthday card to see if it's legit or not. The president says it's not. I take the president's word.
Clearly, the birthday note from President Trump is a fallacy.
This was just a disgusting human being that I don't think anybody that ever wrote him a card letter for a 50th birthday.
I think it's just a foolish red herring that people are trying to look at for political divisiveness.
Do you think the Trump birthday note to Epstein is real?
I don't. They say it's not.
The question is not whether people think it's real, because people in politics can deny anything they don't want to deal with. The question is about the veracity of the evidence, something we've reported on for you, that it came from the Epstein estate under subpoena by independent executors under the color of law. You can get in a lot of trouble for tampering with that type of evidence, and there's no rationale. No one's put forward a motive for why someone, the lawyer or executor of this estate, would take those risks, nor any evidence of that happening. So the real question is, why did Donald Trump know so much about Jeffrey Epstein's scurrilous activities, whether they'd been convicted or not at that point all the way in 2003? How many people, Donald Trump included, around Epstein knew about his activities or his outright pedophilia and sex trafficking and either looked the other way or didn't mind or made jokes about it, at a minimum? That's before you get to the question of whether the Donald Trump administration in the first and second term has committed malfeasance or worse with regard to the case. And some Republicans have joined the Democrats on this push to get even more evidence. Here's one MAGA podcaster.
Yeah, it's not more people covering it. He just has to do one thing. Stop calling it a hoax.
Agree.
Stop, trolling this topic because you're turning your own team against you.
That's your own team saying stop turning you against them, right? Now, there was also a photo of Epstein holding this kind of novelty check that they joked or suggested was some sort of payment. Of course, it's a novelty giant check. Looks more like hijinks than the actual changing hands of money. The Wall Street Journal reports that the man there is a Mar-a-Lago member, Joel Pasco. The note reads, Jeffrey showing early talents with money and women, sells fully depreciated, a name is redacted, to Trump for $22,500. Now, the image also released from the Epstein birthday book, you see this cartoon of Epstein giving balloons and other assortments to what appear to be children. Those are girls, 1983. And then flash forward 20 years, and there they are as cartoon images, multiple people, semi-nude, massaging him, and you see the inscription, "What a great country." The point isn't to get into all the prurient back and forth. The point is that a large part of the denials from Donald Trump and other elites was that no one knew this was going on, and later when they found out, they made changes. That's been one of the cover stories. That is detonated by some of the details in the book. And as we've been careful to point out, someone's link or socializing with this now deceased sex trafficker does not automatically mean they were doing any convictable crimes. But it does detonate and explode many of the defenses that said people didn't know what was going on, just as Donald Trump's birthday card, which is strong evidence that undermines his case against the Journal, suggests that he was well aware that Epstein had all these sort of activities and all these references to things being young and staying secret. Meanwhile, Democrats are on offense.
They were boys.
They were boys.
Like no question about it.
If Republicans don't want to engage in a cover-up of pedophilia and this pedophilia ring, they should go sign this discharge petition.
The Epstein saga is perhaps the nastiest example of a trend that infects his entire presidency.
This idea that he wasn't close to him is crazy, but I do think that it's going to be so important for us to really dig in.
All of those are fair questions. There's also word that a bipartisan group of congressional investigators want to meet with Epstein's estate lawyers tomorrow. And remember, a lot of this got kicked up and escalated and elevated by people who claimed they wanted to get to the bottom of the Epstein scandal. Those people at one time included Donald Trump as a candidate, his Attorney General Pam Bondi, Mike Johnson, who you saw there saying he doesn't believe anything, he's not interested, the president now saying it's a dead issue. That is a tell. It doesn't mean they were all part of the crime circuit, but it does suggest that when they said they wanted to get to the bottom of this with evidence and the truth, they were lying. And now that there's opportunities to do so, that they are in power, that there are subpoenas that can be used and documents that the DOJ has under the control of Donald Trump, that they don't want that material out. So that raises the big questions. Why are they so scared for people to know that they knew what Epstein was like, some of what he was up to all the way back in 2003? Why don't they want people to know what Maxwell was involved with? Why are they giving her leniency here in the second term? These questions are not going away. They are only escalating. And it is one of the few issues where there is some bipartisanship with Democrats and some Republicans to push on. That apparently scares President Trump. We're joined by Maya Wiley, a former SDNY civil prosecutor, human rights expert. I say all that, Maya, because it's easy to lose the thread with so much going on. But the thread was people who claimed they were going to get to the bottom of this becoming part of the cover-up. Where does that stand today as you see some, not all, I'm careful to note, but some of these top Republicans, certainly the president, trying to shut this all down?
I think it shows that they are certainly making themselves appear to be people with something to hide and something to worry about. You said it really well, Ari, when you said the question is why, right? But when you're looking at what you just walked us all through, what so many Americans are now seeing in their news feeds, when you see the image of that card with little girls with balloons and then that naked image later of what we know victims have said happened to them. Victims who have come forward survived, because not all survived. As we know, Virginia Giuffre took her own life. That said, these are the kinds of things that happened to them. And then to have elected officials say, don't believe your lying eyes. We're just going to call it a hoax. I mean, we're just going to say it can't be believed. This is a pattern where the American public has said, wait, what? Why? And why aren't we shining a light on what happened here and something that was literally federal crimes of sex trafficking that includes minors, and where we have a history of powerful people not only engaged, but even in his first prosecution, helping to tamp down the serious nature of the alleged crimes so that we know in the future more crimes were committed from an administration that is telling us all right now as it's threatening to violate the rights of Americans and people and residents in American cities because of crime, that he will not actually suggest that there is any legitimacy to investigating what and being transparent about the very allegations that there were powerful people potentially engaged in crime, and crime that included children. It is simply outrageous, and one that I'm just shocked by one thing. How can anyone who supports the president just say, stop calling it a hoax? What about stop refusing to be transparent about sex crimes? What about that? It's criminal behavior we're talking about.
And stop giving leniency in the prison assignment to his co-conspirator. I want to play the top banker, Jamie Dimon, very important person. The bank was basically exposed for bending over backwards for Epstein in the Times account this week. He gave his first big response today. Take a listen.
We totally regret ever having done business with that man. But we always get better what we do. So when you talk about cyber or safeguards or anti-money laundering or bad guys in the system, we're always trying to improve that. And it'll never be perfect because the bad guys are quite smart, too, about how they go about it. But we're among the best in the world. Doesn't mean we don't make mistakes.
That's Dimon's response. It speaks to, the seriousness of this issue. People say, oh, is this conspiracy theories? Is this D.C. politics? This is hitting a lot of different places that have tried to be secretive. And while Mr. Dimon says they have these programs, including AML, anti-money laundering, the Times account showed whether or not Dimon knew about it. They didn't find that in writing, but it showed that other people, top people at the bank, did know about it. The AML flags were waived. They just gave an exception to this horrific deceased sex trafficker.